sit down.
Hi.
We're just in time.
How are you?
Fine.
Good.
We're just about to start, so thank you for coming. Well, thank you very much for coming and welcome to the October meeting of Wittersham Parish Council. Apologies, I have apologies from Councillor Mash and...
Can I just...
Go on.
Yes, apologies from Councillor Newton, who has a previous engagement, and Councillor Mash is unwell, so I thought it best not to come.
If you're talking to her, do give her our best thoughts.
I will, thank you.
Do we accept both of them?
I think I've accepted them, yes.
No, everybody has to accept.
Yes.
Good reason.
I think you know, Councillor Newton's reasons are valid, and I think probably Councillor Mash's views are valid, so I'll accept them.
Agreed?
Yes.
Thank you.
And do I have any declarations of interest before we go any further, please?
No, none, thank you.
Sally? Do I need to quote that?
No, just need to remind her now.
Yes, a reminder that the meeting is being recorded. Anybody needs to know that. And then, would it be in order to confirm?
Public session, please.
You want that now?
Yes, please.
So in fact, in that case, Yvonne keeps me straight, and we're going to go straight to the public session. And if anybody has something they'd like to contribute, they might like to raise their hand. Would you like to go first?
Yes, okay, so Mary-Ann and myself are here to answer any questions that the Parish Council might have about the request for a donation from the Parish Council towards the Scarecrow Trail that the football club is organising for the village on the weekend of the 19th and 20th of October. Basically, we see this more as a community event rather than an event to fundraise for the football club.
I don't think we're going to get much money raised for this one as what we do other fundraising, but I just think we've got a lovely village and Ham Street do it, there's loads of other villages that do it. Ham Street was packed at the weekend with people walking around, and I just think why shouldn't we do it and show off our village. We've asked the church to do scarecrows and all points of interest in the village to get people to go to the school, getting involved, the gardening. Yeah, there's just quite a lot of, I just thought it'd be quite nice to, we've got a lovely little village, haven't we? It'd be nice to get people in and...
We're very lucky to live here.
Yeah, we are lucky, yeah we are.
And it will be a good thing for all ages too.
Yeah, of course.
So we bring the community.
My kids
together.
love walking around. They've done it once, the church done it one year, and we love walking around. It's raining, but it didn't matter. And the kids loved it, walking around and searching for them all. And
So where are you planning on putting all the scarecrows?
yeah, so the house is around, everyone that's put forward to making one, they're going to put it outside the house. The church is doing one, the school's doing one, so outside the church school. We're going to try and get one on the memorial, aren't we?
Yeah, we think, I mean, that's the other thing that we want to raise with the Parish Council too, is the public open spaces. We obviously want to make the village look as attractive as possible, so we hope to be able to put some bunting up on the memorial garden, possibly some at the triangle. The triangle is looking particularly beautiful at the moment, so it would perhaps be nice to have a sign there and a bit of decoration because it's very central to the village and will get noticed by passing, you know, people passing through the village. So we'd hope to place some strategically around the village. The football club is actually making 10 Wittersham footballers, which has got the sponsors of all our youth teams on, all the different sponsors, and they're going to be strategically placed around the village, obviously in safe areas, because you people are going, and then there's going to be a little competition quiz that goes with that. We hope to be able to, with the Parish Council's permission, to put some on obviously the areas that you own yourself, and well, Ashford Borough Council.
Well, I don't exactly know who can give the authority for bunting, but Yvonne will tell me.
Well, I mean, I think we've always had it in the past. I don't think it's been an issue before when we've had events.
That's a different point, but presumably we can give permission, can we, Yvonne?
Well,
Can't think there's a problem.
No.
I've
I
been
mean, we're
asked
not
this
putting it
before,
across
but
the public highway, which might be an issue. We're just talking about.
You think there is a problem, Jeremy?
No, I think it's
No.
fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, so
In that case, I think you've got probably a suit.
All sounds great to me.
Sorry, Paul?
Paul has a question.
Yeah, Paul.
That's
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
Can we address things to... Yeah, please.
Sorry.
Not to each other.
Oh, sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Good, thank you.
Agreed. From the point of view of our audits, if you like, when you're asking for donations towards the costs, can you just explain
Not towards the
what sort of
yeah.
costs you're... Because people making scarecrows, are you giving them money to make the buy
no,
the stuff?
we're
Or
gonna do a
what
prize.
costs will we be defraying, helping
Well,
to defray?
basically, really what we're asking for costs towards is
Yeah.
we're hoping that the sale of the maps will cover the football club's personal costs that we've had, which are not great, but I mean, they soon add up when you're buying crafting materials, printing, laminating.
Yeah.
But the main thing is the prizes.
Okay.
I know in the past the parish council has given money towards prizes. So if we haven't said what the prizes are yet, because we're not sure what our budget is,
Okay.
but if we can get a good outcome from the parish council, we'll then be able to say first, second, third prizes for the actual scarecrows, and then some other prizes for the quiz, a few little goodies for the kids as they're going around. It will just help us to make the event a little bit more special if the parish council can help us. If the parish council can't help us, of course the event would go ahead. It's not relying on it. We're coming to you quite late because we thought about this quite late. I mean, I would hope that if this is successful, maybe it's something we can build for future years, and something where you would make money. Because I mean, I've seen some. I mean, you can go
Like
online.
Hammersmith do, they have stalls. I had someone approached me saying, can I hold a
Well,
stall?
what sort of civic help are you seeking
What
from
sort
the parish
of
council?
yeah, sorry, that's what I was going to ask. What would be a good outcome? What steer can you give us in terms of what you would like from us?
I mean, it's difficult because I don't know how much you've got left in the budget for things like that. But I did say to Yvonne that if we had £100 from the parish council, it would go a long way towards helping us achieve what we like to achieve.
That's great, thank you.
We'll obviously discuss it later. My own feeling is, to be open about it, I think that we would, in my opinion, we'd go further than that. But I don't know if other councillors will agree with us, because I think that building it for later, I mean, we don't have many initiatives like this. You are very good actually at coming up with initiatives, and as you said, it's a community thing. It gets people together. It also potentially, and there's never any harm in this in my opinion, helps to fund the sports club in the long run if it can take off well enough. It always needs seed money to start, and if this actually helps it to really go well, my own opinion, I'll hear other people's views later, we'll start off with looking at more than that. But the main thing is I think it's absolutely brilliant that you've come to us with it.
Well, I mean, you need credit goes to Mary Handy and
Both
not
of
me.
you.
She's the
I said to
mastermind.
Miriam at like 9 o'clock at night, like, Miriam, I've got an idea.
Both of
And
you,
already
it's
she's
fine.
done it.
3 weeks' time.
So I think we've gone far enough with that now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paul's got another question. Oh, sorry, Johnny.
No, I was just going to say I don't want to preempt any of the discussions the parish council will have, but I'd be happy from ward member grant perspectives to match whatever the parish council will do.
Thank you very
Well,
much.
brilliant.
Oh, thank you, Johnny.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
So
It's rolling already.
It's on the agenda later on, so we'll discuss it if we may.
Okay, thank you.
You'll be pleased if you can stay to hear that discussion. Thank you. And is there anybody else who would like to address the committee? Thank you. In which case, we go to the minutes of the next meeting. It's the last meeting. Have I got those?
Yes.
And can I sign those?
There's a little typo I noticed in 4720. Last line should be will instead of with. For with. But will.
will if it's ended with. We always put in a deliberate mistake.
Have to, yeah.
All right, sign otherwise.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Initial, yes.
Just initial.
Yes. Right. We need to initial the and initial and sign and date.
It is dated.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron. Matters arising from last minutes. First item I have is the Swan update, and I'm not sure who's going to lead on that today because John's away.
No, there won't be. John intends to give a full report at the next meeting
Okay.
when he should have had all the results from his article in the Outlook.
Thank you. So nothing more on that. In which case I'm going on to item B, which is the Sports Club lease update. Paul and I have had some correspondence since the meeting earlier last week, and indeed then I've had some correspondence with the chair who's away. Did you wish to say anything at this point, Paul?
I think that only that a number of people have expressed increasing concern. The lease on the sports club has been an issue that has been certainly dogging the parish council for 5 years, maybe more. And there are certain councillors, including myself, who don't feel that we're really making any real progress. The clock is ticking very loudly, and the current lease finishes, I understand, in March. I think it's important to point out the difference between the land, the sports ground, and the building, because when the lease is up, the building can be removed by the sports club. And one of the challenges is that the sports club singly failed to produce any sort of agreement to take this forward. It's stuck. I'm paraphrasing it now. I was approached by Willie at the event that many of us were at the Daily Festival, who expressed his frustration, to say the least, that it was stuck, as the representative of John Mallet. And when we had an informal discussion, I suggested maybe the time has come for the parish council to either wash its hands of the whole thing, say it's nothing to do with us, it is very much something that's there for the benefit of the whole village, but we don't want to get involved, we don't want having to do with it. Alternatively, we could take the view, which I certainly hold, and I know some parish councillors share, that as parish councillors and as a parish council, we have a civic duty to represent the whole of the village, not just certain interested parties, but the whole of the village. It's a facility that the lease effectively bequeathed on the whole of the village for the whole of the village's benefit, and it's stuck. And so I thought maybe it's time for the parish council to decide whether they're going to do anything about it or take the route of Pontius Pilate and wash their hands and just hope for the best. As is, I think, reasonably general knowledge, the current owner of the land is in poor health. As I understand it, there have been appointed 3 individuals to take stewardship, if you like, of that forward. One of which is Arthur Mallet, another one is his son Hugo, and I don't recall the third one, but it's not a huge secret. So, bringing that all together, I think we as a parish council need to first of all decide whether we're remotely interested in championing that safety of that asset for the village, not just these current generations, but for the future generations, the land itself, or we're not interested. And a further point is, because of the inability to make decisions and the dithering of the current sports council, let's call it leadership, we have missed out significantly on grants over the last few years that are widely available to sports clubs throughout the land. NatWest is a good example, because they will not give grants where there's less than 2 years remaining on the lease. I spoke yesterday to somebody at an event not connected with this at all, but their expertise where they work in is within sports ground facility management. And I said, what's the view on that? And they said, you haven't got hope in heck, we didn't say heck, but hope in heck of getting any grants if you don't get your act together and secure a long-term lease. He said, it's not complicated. And he said that there's money around, and it's a great shame, it seems, from what you've told me, that your village hasn't managed to get its act together to get that. So, that's the, hopefully, good summary.
Well, thank you for that. And so you and I exchanged some correspondence, and then I sort of shared it with John in his absence, because he's away, and we had one or two other ideas. I did approach somebody who's been central to the sports club for some time, and I sought a view from that quarter. Do you mind if I just read to the reply I got, which might help, it might not, but it's not very long. Yvonne told me it wouldn't be appropriate to ask somebody to come and address the parish council, so we haven't done that. And I believe Jeremy attended an AAMM last week.
I was at the AGM of the trading company last week.
Yes. Was that constructive?
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine. Everything went through straightforwardly. We got the accounts and what have you. I suppose the only 2 points of particular note were that the bar takings are not as good as they were in prior years. So they are very keen to sort of improve their event style fundraising. I mean, ignoring for a moment, putting on one side what Paul said about funding as grants and things, you know, talking about fundraising within the village.
Will the swan clothing make a difference to that?
I suppose it doesn't appear to have shown up yet from what they reported. They are down a bit on what they would like. I mean, it's not catastrophic, but they're not getting enough. So it's a good reason why, you know, things like the scarecrow idea is excellent. They've got a quiz night that they've already announced the date of, and they're going to do more of those things through the winter. The other thing was that it was announced that Ray won't be carrying on as the sort of constant barman. So he needs his weekend back. So he's still going to be supportive, but he won't be doing it all the time. I think they're 2 things worth mentioning. But other than that, it was the trading company, you see, it wasn't the club itself. So it's straightforward.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm just going to read the paragraph that I got from my contact. The position is that we have agreed a draft governing document or constitution for the new CIO and sent it off to Willie Everett in early September, asking for comments within a month or so. As we have not received any comments from John Mallett's solicitor, we, the Wittersham Sports Club Committee, are meeting next Tuesday, 16th of October, to agree to send the draft off to the Charities Commission for their approval. This will take about 4 months. We've also asked Willie and John Mallett for an initial draft of the new lease. This would be separate to the governing document, unlike the present lease, and we are still awaiting that from John Mallett's solicitor. Once we have received this, we can make comments and try to get this agreed while the draft governing document is with the Charities Commission. I hope this helps. I thought it probably did, but I now ask the council if they agree with me.
It seems that one side is saying it's with the other side and vice versa.
Yeah,
That's been
what
saying
is
for 5
Willie's
years.
frustration then?
Because he's not getting he's saying he's not making progress and he's not getting the responses.
From the sports club
Yeah.
side?
Yeah.
No,
That's as I understand
from
it.
the landlord solicitor who's got it. The sports club has done their bit for now. It's taken a long time. I mean, I was agitating for them to start on a CIO a year ago, and then it all came to a head at the sports club annual meeting. I can't remember quite when that was. Probably about maybe May time,
Yeah.
April time.
Yeah.
And then at that point, suddenly, 6 months after I'd been, more than 6 months after I'd first been putting it to the secretary of the club, and no, I don't know if he's the secretary of the trading company, he's something anyway, and to Willie himself, that they should be looking at the CIO, then nothing happened, then suddenly the dam broke and everyone at that sports club meeting was saying, yeah, that's what we've got to do. I believe one of the things that was reported at the time was that other trustees didn't even want to stay as trustees if they carried on with unlimited liability, which was always an issue. But the dog hadn't barked before and it suddenly did. So they're then on a short time to get things done. The sports club have produced the governing document draft when asked, and it's gone off to the solicitors. Obviously the solicitors, as the advisor to John Mallett, the landlord, have got to be comfortable with it because that's what they will be granting the lease to. They want to make sure that the CIO is in their minds the fit and proper person that they're happy to grant the land to for the next 70 or 80 years.
Do you think that the landlord would grant a lease to an unformed CIO?
I don't think he can. I think
Well,
he's
exactly. So basically, you've got a situation where there's a draft application to be a CIO, and do we know where that is?
Well, we are told it's with the solicitors to...
So it hasn't even gone off to the Charity Commission?
Well, what Alan has just reported, as you heard, is that they're going to have a committee meeting, which, if they agree there, they will then send it to the Charity Commission as it stands. Obviously, there's an opportunity for some left-hand, right-hand problems if the one that goes to the Charity Commission isn't then the one with the corrections that the lawyer wants, and But I mean, that's just normal administration, and lawyers do that all the time.
It doesn't have to be
the
that
key,
protracted.
no, but I'm only reporting. I'm not judging. It is as it is at the minute. And the other thing that I think is helpful, although of course we never know for sure what happens in the future, is that we have been told, Willie has said, that's not meaning that it happens, that there's no problem holding over the lease. I'm not a land person especially, but in principle, providing the two sides agree when a lease ends, if the new one isn't in place, they just bumble along until the new one eventually is done.
Well, they don't.
That's called, to make it sound technical, holding over.
Yes, but there needs to be a signed document by both parties to enact that. And given the track record of either parties giving them acting to sign that, don't hold your breath.
Okay.
The fact is that
holding over is easy though. It's the old version.
Yeah, by your own sort of timeline, by the time it eventually makes its way through the sports club, and if they then decide to send off a draft, I don't think that's going to really work with the Charity Commission from my own experience in dealing with them. So it has to be something that all parties are going to agree, really. Then you add on 4 months. Yes, you could hold over that and hope that the current landowner survives, okay, because if it then goes into probate, that could take on something like that a year or even more. And I guess my point is around what's the best outcome? To be quite candid, not for the sports club. What's the best outcome for the whole village? As for the future security of that piece of land? I'm actually less inclined. Very sad to hear about Ray, because I think that'll have a negative impact on what goes on there. But I'm less inclined to worry about the buildings. But I think it's the asset that has been leased to the community as a whole, everybody in the parish. And I think that's at serious risk. And as a parish councillor, I feel my duty is to the parish, not to necessarily individual organisations. And that's where and I know other people share my concerns. There's been a lot of sitting on hands, frankly, for years and years and years. The track record of parties to have an ability to agree is woeful, and I certainly wouldn't put the chances of success, and I'm not, you know me, a negative person, but I feel very, very concerned, and I don't see any signs of a successful outcome based on the evidence so far.
I mean, it's a perfectly fair opinion.
Yeah. And I don't see what the alternatives are that will reassure
I
everybody.
was just about to say, look, and we have had informal discussions, you and I, in the past on this. What alternative is there other than the two parties to the lease and the CIO to which the lease would be granted to actually do it? I mean, it's like someone sitting in the stands complaining about two footballers. The two footballers are playing the game, the person in the stands is watching it.
So what role do you think the parish council has in the future?
I think the parish council, through all of it, does what it can to look after the parish, of course, to fulfil its own legal obligations, to do things that are constructive for the parish, to facilitate, to encourage, to do all of those things, to sometimes pass messages around, to try and, well, it comes back to encouraging, and I've certainly been doing that.
What
But
do you think as a
ultimately-
parish
But
council we should
ultimately,
do?
we are not the landlord, we are not the sports club, and we're not a party to the lease.
But my question remains, what do you think the parish
I think I've
council
been
should
doing
do
it.
going forward?
I
I'm
think
not
I've been doing it.
criticising you personally, I'm talking about the parish council, all of us.
As of
collectively.
this moment,
What do you
it's on-
think the parish
as of-
council should do going forward?
As of right now, other than trying to find out what is happening, encouraging them to get on with it, that's about it. There is absolutely nothing that we can do to get that particular, can't think of the right metaphor, to get the thing either into or out of whatever you, I can't think of the metaphor. There is one of these metaphors that we have, get the ball into the net if you like.
Come out
We are
of
not in a position
stalemate.
to actually do it.
There's nothing we can do. Okay, that's
Come
your view.
out of stalemate.
Come out of stalemate if you like.
I
There are
felt
two
that
other parties to this, not us.
I felt that this paragraph I quoted to had some merit and some encouragement in it, although I was dismayed by the time lag, because it's going to be, reading that, it's going to be at least another year, isn't it? But then I've got a funny feeling, actually, possibly, that if we start to throw our weight around from parish council, it could even be counterproductive.
Well, I think that the point about it is that the current proposal is that the sports club, in whatever guise it is, because it's got the trading company and whatever, and I can't exactly remember the exact, it doesn't really matter at the moment, but the lease is currently held by the sports club, let's call it that. And that's the proposal to renew
It will
it.
continue to be, but I thought
That's the proposal, is to renew it. So the question is, at one stage, it was discussed a few years ago whether or not to break the logjam, to break the stalemate, the parish council took the lease, and that's not unusual in villages. That's not unusual. The parish council takes the lease, and then the sports club or sports clubs or whatever take a sublease. And it is quite normal throughout England and Wales. And that was sort of kicked around at the time. The advice was, no, we shouldn't get involved. And I'm saying, do we carry on just not getting involved?
That's wrong. You're now rewriting history there, Paul.
Well,
Just
Colin,
let me explain.
we did
because
discuss that,
That
didn't
is
we?
actually
We
incorrect.
did
I'm not
discuss
saying you
that.
haven't discussed it. I'm giving you the history. You said that it was decided we shouldn't get involved. The
We
thing
haven't got
about
involved.
the thing about the parish council taking over the lease. In
Mhm.
fact, actually, the freehold was about 2012-ish.
Not talking about freehold.
2012-ish, the landlord started discussions, and I got involved in this at the council's request and discussed it with the landlord's lawyers, with the landlord's permission, that the land may have been left to us in the event of his death. It didn't actually happen that way, and we went back again, but that is where we never said we wouldn't do it. We actually resolved as a council that we would do it. That was to have the land left to us if he wanted to do it. It then didn't happen because things within the family changed and he didn't feel the
Yes.
need to do it. That's what happened in those days.
Mhm.
There's never been since then a suggestion, I mean, it's been discussed,
Yes.
informally between us, what about if we took it over? But that's not an offer. It's not an offer. We could always go and press for it, but it's not an offer. There is an existing lease that hasn't run out till next March, and at the minute there are discussions on renewing it, which is fine. By the way, there are a lot of councils that say if they do have the lease or the freehold or whatever, the sports ground, they wish they didn't.
I'm not suggesting
I
for
can
the
give you
freehold.
names. Colin's been involved in one that has had huge troubles. He doesn't live there anymore,
No.
but huge troubles with their sports club.
So would I be correct in saying that your view, and please correct me if I've got this wrong, but I would want to get some transparency around this, your view is that we should essentially do nothing as parish council?
I think that you're trying to put words into my mouth.
I'm asking
I've
you.
never done
I'm
nothing.
asking you.
I'm saying.
No, I'm talking about
I'm
going
merely
forward. I'm not
saying-
interested in the past.
I'm merely saying that if you keep thinking that there's some thingy to be got, the metaphor still escapes me, getting something out of somebody. If you think that we can suddenly wave some magic wand and make it all happen, then I think you're deluding
Mr.
yourself.
Chair,
For us,
I think
for us, we are where we
I think my
are.
councillor's got the wrong end of the stick.
I don't think he's saying that.
Okay.
I don't think he's
Thank
saying
But
that.
he, but
I
he
think
keeps
possibly
saying that I'm
he's
saying do
asking
nothing.
if, I think Paul's possibly asking if he can make a proposal that the parish council might or might not support to move forward in a slightly differing way.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to do is gauge a sense of a feeling from councillors as quite simply, do we do nothing going forward, not criticising anything in the past, or do we...
I understand.
So-
So what I think I'm asking for,
Yeah.
if you can just put into a few words,
I would propose...
a proposal
So, yeah.
that we could hear and then possibly we can vote on.
I'm working on the principle, right, that there is now a triumvirate involved in representing John. Yeah? Hugo, Arthur, and I can't
You mean
forget-
Victor, not Arthur.
Victor, sorry. Victor, Hugo, and somebody
I
else.
think that is in the event
I
of
think
his
there's a
death.
Well,
He
the
hasn't
point,
died.
yes, but the point about they I know that they are carrying great influence.
Maybe not.
Okay. Well, fine. Well then, I'm getting the sense that there's no point in putting any proposal forward if the parish councillors, all of them, because
Well, we
haven't
don't
heard-
know.
we haven't heard yet from Sally and Colin what their views are. But there's no point in putting forward something if there's no real interest in it. And I think fundamentally boils down to, right, forget the metaphors, do nothing going forward, or explore opportunities, not to just leave it in the hands of Sports Club, Willie, Sports Club, Willie, Charity Commission. I mean, you were there.
It's very frustrating, I agree.
Yeah, very.
Colin, do you have something to say?
I'm very much in agreement with what Paul is saying, that we've been going around the mulberry bush and we've not been interested. It's the fact that frustrations happen because we don't seem to be getting anywhere or better the Sports and Social Club. My concern is what's going to happen to the village.
So I think you're saying you're supporting a motion that Paul might be putting forward.
We had some discussion about 18 months ago on this and taking it forward, and we felt at that stage we should make our voice known to the Sports and Social Club, that our concerns.
Of course, I mean, the slightly frustrating aspect is that I know Jeremy's put a lot of energy into this, and I know you have, and I know who Paul has. Actually, I know I have too. I haven't been actively involved for 18 months, but it's indeed there. You know, we've always been reassured that yes,
It's going to happen.
It will happen soon.
Yeah.
Sally, do you have anything to say?
Well, you say put something forward to the sports club. I think we've got to give the sports club credit that they are not doing nothing now. They have approached or put down the draft document from the Charities Commission. But also we wrote to the sports club not that long ago and we were told basically it's none of our business.
And to add to that,
Afraid not.
when I got on to John Mallet last time, and it's a long time ago, after I'd had direct, face-to-face meeting with him and Willie, I'd been involved with the lawyers, but I got on to him about something, we're talking several years ago, 6 or 7 maybe. I sent him an email and I got one straight back saying, more or less, I told you, you deal with Willie. And I have not...
Right, that was 7 years ago.
Indeed, but I have not chosen to say, well, I'm not going to take any notice of you telling me to leave you alone. I'm going to keep harrying you because that I don't think is helpful.
So, are we getting close at this level, parish council level?
What are your thoughts, Alan?
It's a very difficult one, and I know where I've been. Just at this moment, I'm having read that paragraph I've read to you, I'm inclined to go with that.
Well, then I will propose that we kick it down the road. We don't do anything at the moment, and we hope that in a month's time, something might have happened, something might have developed, and we review it then.
Perhaps,
Right.
could we...
We
Not
can
to
keep it
support
on
that.
the agenda. We can keep it on the agenda.
That's what I'm saying.
Good.
That's what I'm saying, because what I'm hearing is, don't worry, it's all in hand, it's all going to happen.
Is it reasonable to ask Yvonne if she might make an inquiry prior to the next meeting, just to remind them that we're meeting to discuss it, and has anything useful happened? Are you allowed to do that?
Well, I can do it again, but
Why
it was
not?
only in December when I asked
There's
before.
there's no harm in you asking again. I definitely support that.
If everyone...
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, that
I'm conscious
Yeah,
that it's
I'm-
been raised, and
Raised.
I'm hearing great reassurances that don't worry, nothing's going to...
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I went quiet 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And I was rattling a lot of dustbin lids and getting really quite worked up. And I was told, don't worry, it's all under control.
Well, let's be prepared to be amazed by the sports club actually making
Yeah.
a decision and getting something sorted out, and by Willie or whoever it is, because at the moment it seems to be that the sort of metaphorical finger pointing, and nothing's happened, and we are relying very heavily on the current owner
Goodwill.
living, right, and the goodwill and everything coming around, and then the ultimate thing is what's best for the village community as a whole, and that's kind of lost in all of these discussions.
I think
I
you're the only
think
person
that's not only my view.
frustrated.
I don't think that the whole of the village is really taken into consideration. It's got very parochial.
I mean, one of the things that really frustrated me was that when I spoke to Willie, I was told he just found out that the solicitor at John Mallett's firm, who had been dealing with it, had left the firm
Yes.
4 months previously, and nobody had bothered to tell anybody. So nothing had been going on for 4 months. And it also, you know, if I had an engagement with a solicitor and nothing happened, I would have asked a question: is my solicitor still in the business?
Yeah.
So that's actually incompetence. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Completely.
And you know,
Completely.
we should have been getting
It's a
on.
poor track record.
I think we are all frustrated. We are all taking an interest in the benefit of to the village and whatever, and the things it is. It's not just Paul who has got this concern. The point is that we keep going round in a circle. It's what, if anything, the parish council can do that is constructive. And at the moment,
Well, they
there isn't
could.
in
The
my
parish
opinion.
council could actually make a formal approach to the landowners, offering, suggesting, however you want to word it, to take on the head lease. They could do that. No one's saying you are forbidden
Is that
to do
throwing the cat among the pigeons 4
Oh,
months
who
before
knows?
it runs
Who
out?
knows?
But at the moment, I don't think the pigeons are going to be around much longer.
I mean, just a word of caution, of course, and that is Northern have done this sort of thing with Blue Cross land, and they've got themselves into terrible, terrible, terrible trouble.
Maybe their lawyer left halfway
I
through.
don't know what happened, but
It's
the trouble they've got themselves into is, you know, it's a deep,
it's a
deep
bit
mire.
different for that.
You know, but even so we have to be a little bit careful.
Interesting point.
Um,
Our first duty, of course, is to
Let's
council.
defer it.
So I think we are doing, and Yvonne's going to perhaps ask
Yeah, right again.
a relevant party if they have any news for us sometime prior to the November meeting. Sorry that took so long.
That's very important.
It is important.
So with everybody's permission, I'm going to move on to item C, which is the transfer of PC land to Poplar Farm.
Nothing yet.
Nothing new.
No.
And land in fronting St John the Baptist. I've got a meeting, and I think Jeremy's going to be there, and possibly John, I'm not sure.
No, John won't be.
No, with Yvonne, Jeremy and I, and a
Parish
meeting,
forum.
and it's a different person to who we were planning to meet. They did manage to devolve it down the scale, which is perhaps
Is
disappointing.
that the 16th?
It's
15.
15th?
15th. But I think we decided that 3 was enough.
Yes, that's right. I agree with that, but I thought it was the 16th, not
Yeah.
15th.
If the whole parish council came, I think they'd probably
No,
they'd probably retreat
no,
down a hole.
you don't want all of us there.
No, but you could hide behind one of the gravestones or something and listen.
Again,
You could change gravestones.
Yes, it's been devolved down to Kieran Doble's team leader, who is Jenny Watson. I knew her as Jenny Wickenden years ago. So some of the correspondence that we've got going back to 2008, when I first brought up this whole thing down there, she was involved in that.
Does that mean they're panicking?
No, they still maintain that it isn't KCC land. I brought in, as you've probably seen, lots of arguments just why it should be. The fact that they say that the brick path is theirs, and then you've got presumably the footway beside the road is theirs, yet the piece of land in between isn't.
So they do say the brick path is theirs.
But yes.
Well, they must be asked to put that right for one thing.
Oh yeah, that will.
But that's where we've had the accident.
Yes, but that's where they came back and have inspected and said it doesn't need anything.
Well, we've had 3 accidents now. So,
Well, that's you know all that. You can bring that.
well, I
up,
shall look at them
obviously.
very severely.
But, and the other person that will be there is Jamie Cunningham. I don't know him. Jeremy says he replaced Lisa Willoughby
new
at
highways
Ashford.
manager
So
for
he's
Ashford.
coming out of Ashford, whereas Jenny's in KCC. So we'll have one of
He's
Well,
KCC,
until
he's
they've
the
been and we've had a
highways
discussion, we won't really know the outcome, so we'll report back as soon as we can.
Sure.
And I'm going to probably get hysterical about it.
I can't remember whether I've said this here before, but it would be useful for us to be clear before we have the meeting with KCC what this council's view is as to whether it wants what might be on offer. In other words, there's no point marching the Duke of York and then up the top of the hill and then decide we only want to march back down again.
Well, it's which order we get it into. If we were to say, for instance, to KCC, it seems possible that there's another party in the village who might have an interest, they're going to leap over the hedge and go home. If we can say to them that they're responsible, then it might save another body within the village from some expense.
So I mean, in that sense, we didn't need to do anything because it just, I mean, we've stirred up a little bit of a fairly minor hornet's nest here. And the idea was because we seem to have an interest in that land.
We do.
All I'm saying here now is that if we pursue this more, or the way we pursue it more next week with KCC, if they say, for argument's sake, and I'm speculating, look, we have no interest in that land, whether it's ours or whether it's not, you know, if you want to register it as yours, get on with it.
Yes.
We could then do that.
Yes.
Assuming no one else comes out of the woodwork and says, no, it isn't, it's mine, which can always happen with the land registry, but not very likely.
Well, it's only
But
the
if we
church.
do that and register it, we must then be saying, okay, we want to take it over and do what it needs, which is probably tarmac and white lines so people park better and get more cars in, and or plant flowers or whatever we want to do. But we haven't ever decided that we're willing to get into that particular, let's say, hole that we will have dug for ourselves, which is saying, and I'm not against it, I'm saying that the council's never decided that it's actually willing to face up to what comes next.
I wasn't planning on giving them a clue that the parish council might have an interest,
Okay, right.
on the basis that they might use that as an excuse not to do anything.
Sure.
If they see it's all weed overgrown and it's dangerous and that they're responsible and they could be held responsible legally if somebody fell and broke a hip or
And
something,
if it's theirs.
then, you know, I'm hoping that they will then, but they may say, no, we're still not interested, in which case I'd probably come back to this committee and say, can we now do something ourselves? And say in cooperation with the church and claim it. I think you have to be shown you've used it for 11 years, which I think we have.
Oh, you're right. It's liability followed by action.
So we don't want to carry our hand.
So
To-
all
to
we're
a
really
lot.
going to say to KCC is, what are your plans for this land, which you don't think you have anything to do with?
And then perhaps as church warden I might come back to this committee and say, look, KCC have washed their hands of it, can you help us please?
Isn't also the question is if we've now on our third injury, so far no one has hit their head and suffered neurological damage, but elderly people or other people that could happen. The key question that was posed to us was, who do I sue?
Well, indeed. And
We
that,
go back to this thing that KCC have said, that the brick footpath is theirs. It's the land in between that is no man's land that nobody wants
That's right.
to take responsibility. That's completely different from the footway.
but
The
if we,
footways where people are having accidents, that's where I have got, back in 2008 they said it was theirs, and the chap came out and looked at it and said, we don't consider it's a problem. So they're still saying it's theirs, so that's where...
that's where we need to persuade them that they're taking a risk of litigation against them for inaction.
Yes.
So have the church written to highways if they're saying the path is theirs regarding each of the accidents?
it's a delicate one, because don't forget the churchyard is parish council responsibility, because it's closed in 1903, as indeed is the cemetery. The lay-by outside the church wall, that's what we're trying to work to get
But
at.
presumably it was a churchgoer that had the accident,
2 churchgoers.
so that was recorded in the church's accident book.
I'd probably keep the church accident book under my bed at home. So yes, it could be entered in the church accident book, but it's good.
Then wouldn't it be a
Yes.
good idea to write to highways and say,
It would have been sensible for the church warden to keep an accurate record of that. It can be done.
I had already reported that there were accidents, and
Yes.
that's why I wanted them to.
but it's more ammunition if you're reporting each individual accident,
Yes.
and they're saying
Yeah.
we're not doing anything.
But I
it's
think
perfectly
if they
safe.
say we're not going to do anything, then I would start to bombard them with that sort of thing.
But they have already assessed it and said it's fine.
But then they haven't seen me on site yet.
As far as the accident book is concerned, I think there's an argument to say it's nothing to do with the church accident book, because it's not the church's path. They're only people going to the church. You wouldn't write in M&S's accident book if you fell over walking up Tunbridge Wells High Street.
But I can see that it could have some influence, and
It's a good one to make an argument
as a
about.
caring society and a Church of England operation in the village, then we have some responsibility to care for
You
parishioners.
could
who
certainly
live
write
inside.
it down as a memorandum item, of course.
Yes, indeed.
Their actual wording, there is no essential works required at this time. This is only a slight uneven footway and does not need any works done at the moment. Because of that, I will not be taking any action on your inquiry.
Well, I mean, that's what we're going to have to try to demonstrate, that it's complete load of nonsense, and that we expect
That's
a
certainly an
higher
addition
standard.
of liability if someone did fall over there.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's what I'm saying. That
Yes.
is
We expect a higher standard, and I hope we're going to try and find a way to achieve it next week. Is that all right?
Perfect.
No, we'll report back. Okay, so caretaker scheme.
that I'm waiting for the result of. Michaela, who's the girl we met, is on annual leave back tomorrow.
Okay.
I chased it ready for tonight. That's
I think we're always back tomorrow, isn't it? Right.
the 9th.
Okay. Planning applications.
Well, no, this is where I think I want to bring
Okay,
up.
correspondence.
Yes.
Item 2, not item 1.
Yes, no, item 2.
So moving on the agenda to item 9, sub-paragraph 2, regarding the donation towards the scarecrow competition. Does anybody wish to start on this?
We've jumped over the quotes for the paving.
Yes,
stuff.
yes, it's been brought forward.
Oh, right, oh, sorry.
I'm only doing what I'm told.
No, I understand. I wasn't.
I was
Suggested.
I didn't have my ear open to that. Sorry.
No.
You make a
Well,
proposal.
Mr Chair, I propose that we, given our Borough Council's very kind matching offer, I propose that the Parish Council make a donation of £100.
That's the sort of figure I had in my own mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was aiming for more than that, as you know.
But then we're
Yes,
getting
please.
more. We've already heard from
No,
Johnny.
that's, well, yes, the more we pay, the more he pays. This is good.
Within
my suggestion is going to be
You're getting it both
250,
ways,
which
yeah.
I think is not unreasonable, bearing in mind the paucity we have of these sort of events.
And what would you expect to see as a result of your donation of that?
The beginning of an excellent event that can run again, the beginnings of getting good participation and enjoyment and all those things, and also the fact that if it does really well, of course, and they get enough £3 map purchases, then it will actually turn in some money from the sports club, a little bit at least. But the key really is to help the 2 people who are going to put all the effort into it, to actually make the best event possible.
Yeah.
You know, I think that my judgment reading, rightly or wrongly reading the note that Mrs Lewis sent to the clerk, was being quite sort of not wanting to be too ambitious for the money. You know, £100 would be really, really nice. It would make a big difference. I thought a bit more than that would make a bigger difference.
Yes.
So I've got a proposal for 100. I've got a proposal for
250.
250.
I mean, there's a compromise in there somewhere.
I would have thought myself we're somewhere in between that, actually.
Okay.
Remembering that we will have in the next few months other requests.
Yes.
The outlook on Oxney, the air ambulance. You know, we can't give the pound more than once. So that's why I asked the question in the public session: what would be a good,
Yes.
a good amount? And then when Johnny pitches in for doubling that, I thought that's fine.
Would £150 doubled by Johnny be a reasonable option all round?
Certainly from my perspective.
Fine.
Okay.
Anybody in favour?
Yes.
So that gives them 300, which I think is very good.
You tripled your money.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. It's amazing. Thank you.
Good. I hope it goes really, really well.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm afraid there is a
Could I ask a question?
Okay.
You say the church is doing one. Do you mind me
Well,
asking
I messaged
Jennifer,
Lindsay,
Lindsay?
and he said he would speak to the church people and.
And I haven't been spoken to, so
It does require you to come to
There's a
church
big bag of
every
straw at
week
this
for the next year.
Watfield.
He-
If
he-
you want to go and collect some.
There's nothing free in the church.
Say that once more.
There's a big bag of straw at the sports club if you need any.
Thank you very much. That's all. But I will try and gather up some information
Thank
and see who's going to
Yeah, he
do
was
it.
quite hard to get
I'm
hold
not really
of.
good at scarecrows myself. Anyway, sorry, I've
Thank
allowed to
you,
talk to
thank
you in
you.
the middle of the meeting. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, thank you. Very good.
Building on last year's performance.
Yes, very good. So can I go back to now planning applications now and quotes for the paving slabs,
Yes.
which I've seen, and we're hoping on Keith Clover.
Well, we've got to discuss what I'd quite like is if you went for each quote and give the pros and cons.
Yes,
as to
please.
what you
Yes.
think, please.
Okay, I'll probably find them somewhere. I'm sure I will. Hang on,
I have them here, should you want to.
if you've got them, that would be helpful. We probably had more chance to assess the pros and cons. Would you like to do that? And then or do you
Well,
want
only
to?
what, yes, no, but what people think, what do
You
people
see
think?
the
Okay, well let's. You've all seen these. You've all seen these.
Yeah,
Yes,
I've got some,
yes.
I've got some questions. on them.
Okay. I've got one from Keith Clover, Artemis Building, Luke
So
Thompson,
it's nice.
Knights.
That's it.
Nice.
That's it. So it's
And,
three.
and a note also from Greg Penoya
Yes.
giving us some views
Yeah.
that we asked him for.
And so, yes, and there's a note from Greg, isn't there, somewhere?
Yes.
Do you want our views, Mr. Chairman?
I do.
Okay. I'll pitch in and get the ball rolling. I thought that the one on your left I thought was not suitable, expensive, and so that's me left it with Keith Clover,
Yep.
Clover, and Artemis. I think a point of clarification: the Artemis price includes VAT, so it's all inclusive. I don't even know if they
Well,
charge
Keith
it.
Clover doesn't do VAT.
No, he doesn't. So they're equal, and the only difference I could see therefore was that I would be asking before I signed anything that there's an item in Keith's minimalist quotation about a gate that's going to be added on at later,
Yes.
and at what price would that be? Because you could spend 500, 1,000 on an oak gate and what have you. So we haven't got a complete quote from Keith. So I don't think that validates it.
I thought one mentioned as well a wrought iron gate.
Yes, Artemis.
Right. So
Yeah.
they're quoting for different gates.
Well, we don't know what gate I think Keith
We
is
haven't,
quoting for.
we haven't actually specified a gate.
No.
anyway.
We haven't
No.
specified
No.
it so far.
But I think Artemis did. I mean, if you looked at it purely from sort of almost a business point of view, we've got one which is like a half-page quote and one which is far more detailed, and I'm more comfortable with one. For example, the whole issue of licensed disposal of waste round our parish and our borough. There are examples of fly tipping just down near you recently and all over the place like that. Not for 1 minute suggesting Keith would do that, but I'm reassured when any contractor says they would, they commit in writing to using a licensed waste disposal, if you like, on that. And but on the other hand, people have got experience of using Keith. 2 councillors spoke very highly of him, and there's nothing like personal recommendation, putting your own reputation on the line to use him. So when it comes down to it, I think either way we could do it, but I would really be comfortable going back to Keith Glover and saying, Clover, sorry. Going back to him and saying, what is your actual cost? Because you're quoting now and saying the gate's extra.
Well, it depends on which gate it is, obviously.
Yeah.
Well, yes, but
Yeah.
well, I'm assuming there's going to be a gate.
I mean, my experience of having engaged Keith in the past
Yeah,
is
it's
that
very good.
if something comes up, and I mean, it's like Ray Pilcher, they work in the same thing, and you tell them, look, there's a bit extra to be done. He tells you what it's going to be, and it's a genuine, realistic.
I'm sure it is,
Yeah.
but gates are not necessarily just 50 quid from B&Q. You know, we're talking about the we're talking about the monument here.
That's right.
He wouldn't charge you an excess over what you would expect to pay for that gate. I mean, he would give you the cost of the gate, and you would pay
Yeah.
that. And if we want a fancy gate, then we've got to pay for it from
Well, all I'm saying is that we've got one very detailed, broken down quote, and we've got one which is. I'm not passing any comment on Mr. Clover, right? But the fact is that one quote is ambiguous, I think, in part. And I would certainly want to say, what's the cost? Not what's the cost plus what might happen in the future if someone decides to do this, that and the rest of it. We have no control of that. So I don't see how we can vote for an open-ended budget, which is what we'll be asked to do as councillors.
I'm confident he wouldn't be disappointed in this. I mean, I can speak for him personally that he's not.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
It might go up a little bit. It's not going to go up a lot. It's an estimate. He's you know, a straightforward gentleman.
Yeah, well, I'm not impugning him at all. I just don't feel comfortable with an integral part of the project not being costed.
If we're going to achieve anything by November, then we need to make a decision now. No?
No, we won't be able to because we've got to get Mr. Building consent on it,
Yes.
so there's no way
Okay.
that's...
You meant November 25, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Got that in mind.
I hear what Paul says.
Right, and I'm
So,
right
well-
in thinking that one of the quotes has had a site visit with somebody and one hasn't, is that right? Or they both have.
I had a site one with nights, and I believe Keith Clover had one.
Artemis has been, I don't know that for certain, but looking at all the detail and the descriptions and taking hedging out in a particular area and what have you, I think someone must have come and had a look, and they're local.
Mm.
So
But yes, but Keith Clover has had site meeting.
Right, okay. Mm.
And Greg thought that he was very doubtful that that was included in Artemis, but you said it definitely is.
Mm.
Definitely is, okay. I know it says all inclusive.
it says all
something like
inclusive,
that.
yeah.
I don't want to be unkind. I've got a sort of. If I get an estimate from a firm which goes on for 4 or 5 pages, I'm exhausted by the time I've read it.
But most of
know
that
what
is
it
just
all-
terms and conditions, isn't it?
And I'm just slightly suspicious of it.
He did ask us to provide electricity and water and everything, didn't he? But we can't.
And a loo. We can
Well,
produce
the loo,
water.
we've got plenty of loos in the village,
I
haven't we?
mean, for me, there was no.
Village hall,
There was no
Church.
We've got that. I don't have to unlock it for them because we keep it locked for some reason.
I think that I don't think a detailed quote it should be dismissed. All right. I mean, I'm reasoning. All I'm saying is caveat emptor. Buyer beware.
I'm going to make a proposal,
Yeah.
No.
and I've read them all, and
Can I sorry to interrupt? Where does Keith live?
in Tedgeston.
Okay.
He's a local man.
Yes, as the others are. Yeah.
I think that's a very important.
Well, they both are.
I'm going to make a proposal that we seek Keith Clover to do this work.
Yes, like that before.
Well,
Has he
I
done
think
anything like
John-
this before?
John
Maybe
also
I don't know
is of that
that.
opinion.
not quite.
Has he done anything like this before?
He's done all sorts of things.
Well, just give me the same. Has he done anything like this before?
Greenhouses and all sorts of things, you know.
Right. Okay.
Somebody
He's
doesn't want to job
a
there.
very capable, small builder.
Right.
He's a very capable
That's a
small
good
builder.
trust her.
And I'd be very surprised. I mean, who knows what's going to happen, but I'd be very surprised if you did engage him, that you'd be disappointed with his work.
Does he have any assistants?
He can, if he needs assistance, he has them. He can work on his own. He's quite capable of working on his own, but he's also quite capable of bringing in extra people if he needs to. That's how these small-time operatives often do work, and they do it themselves if they can. If they can't, they have somebody up their sleeve who can come and help. For instance, Ray Pilcher and Keith used to cooperate and work together quite often.
So is there a proposal on the table?
Yes. And I propose that we engage Keith Clover.
So Keith Clover actually comes out slightly more expensive, doesn't he? Time to take the VAT off this one.
But the VAT, we still have to pay the VAT to the other one.
Mm.
No, we claim it back.
We claim we get the back.
I think that in the full scale of things, the costs are sort of pretty similar.
Yeah,
I
very
think
similar.
if John and Alan have experience of using Keith Clover on significant projects, then I'm happy to. I think personal testimonies are worth a lot, especially from local people.
I'm comfortable.
So I'd be perfectly happy supporting you on those grounds.
I really don't think you'll be disappointed.
I'm comfortable with that. I did get, this is only second hand, but I did get Keith's contact details from Ray, having asked him who he recommended, and Ray recommended him.
Well, that's a huge plus.
And of course Ray was the go-to man for it. Ray has incidentally worked for me years ago, but that was a fence, not a patio.
You know,
But Ray was the go-to man in the village really, and he said, that's your man.
that's a big recommendation.
Do we set a budget for the gate?
I'm not worried about that.
Depends what we want. The gate will be added later anyway. This includes putting the posts up, and once you've got your posts, you put the gates on them.
Well, you've got to get a gate to fit the post.
Oh yeah,
haven't you?
yeah.
He's not going to do you down. He's not.
Okay, so we've got a proposal from the chairman.
Can I take a show of hands? I'm not voting at this point, but Keith Clover, is anybody in favour? Well, that's carried unanimously.
Jeremy seconding it.
Yeah, sorry to push this one, but I don't think you'll be disappointed.
I think we have that.
Who was it? Was that like never knowingly undersold?
Yeah.
Right, that's another one off the...
Well done, everybody. Thank you for that. And then biodiversity net gain documentation. Do we look at this one now? I mean, this is. I feel strongly this is another area where we need to do our best to get on with it because it's gone on forever, hasn't it? And you've got the documentation for that. That's what I can find it, I'm sure, right? If you grab it.
I found this in here.
Do you want me to say in the spirit of getting on with it, I suppose we adopt Katia Bresso's
Commercial
proposal?
development where floor spaces
I
are
think that was very well thought out, very reasonable, and covered all the necessary.
It's not.
Yeah, that was my impression too.
Yeah, it's not waste.
Yes.
It's not residential. So it's a small
But
site.
Jeremy has looked into this a
When you
bit
get
more.
into SSMs, it says you
Do you want to address the chair?
You could do it yourself.
Do you want to? Would you like to put your comments through the chair?
Of course, of course.
Please.
Right, I find this whole area irritating beyond belief, very frustrating. I won't claim to have read the stuff, it's endless.
You needed a degree to understand it all.
Didn't wish to understand it all, but I did discover something potentially quite interesting in the one from Katia Bresso, which I think Yvonne, perhaps the clerk, needs to just question with her. She sent us a load of script which has the thing, if you need to do BNG, biodiversity net gain, which of course we've been told we do. I don't think we should, but never mind, we're told we do. If we need to do it, you have two options, and one of them, she's given us a load of script, part of which has come from somewhere else. It's just an image. It's not her writing, and I would assume it's come out of a government thing or a guidance note or something. And it says you used a small site metric for yourself under certain conditions, see below, so you'll still need an ecologist to check for protected species and priority habitats. That seems to then be conflicted further down. Small sites, that's exceptions to having to use the biodiversity metric. The biodiversity metric, I think, is the big long thing that I've seen in one of our planning applications. And it's, you just forget it, ridiculous. This is an alternative to that. So you can do that. So small sites, exceptions to having to use the biodiversity metric. Small sites are only required to do it from April 2024, which of course we passed because they threw out our first application in March and we got caught. A small site does not fall into the category of a major development as defined in blah blah, blah town and country planning blah 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 blah. A small site means, so here's our little mini version. Residential development where the number of dwellings is between 1 and 9, or if this is unknown, the site is less than 0.5 hectares. No, it doesn't apply. Here's the one. Commercial development where floor space created is less than 1,000 square metres, or total site area is less than 1 hectare. Well, we're down to about 0.25 hectares. Yeah. We're definitely less than 1,000 square metres, but any of building, but of course it's an or. And it says commercial development. Now, they don't normally mean cemeteries by commercial development, but I mean either cemetery is a flipping field, in which case it doesn't apply at all, or it's something that we get paid for to bury people. So it's commercial development, arguably, unless there's some rules somewhere else. Then there's development. It has to be development that's not the winning and working of minerals, or the use of land for mineral working deposits. No, it isn't, unless you count the artificial hips or something. Development that is not waste development, and that's all it says. If your project qualifies as a small site, that's what I've read out, you can use the statutory biodiversity metric tool, or if you prefer, you can use a simpler version of the metric tool called the small sites metric, SSM. SSM cannot be used on sites where the following are present. Habitats not available in the SSM. I don't imagine that we've got a very, very fancy habitat. Priority habitats, including some hedgerows and arable field margins, doesn't apply. Protected sites, I don't think that means AONB, I think that's going to be triple SIs. And then next one, European protected species, so long as we've got no newts and bats. And in any case, we're not going to do anything to them. If you use the SSM, you do not have to do a condition assessment as part of your survey of existing habitat, as the values are fixed for all habitats assessed. In other words, instead of getting an ecologist in for £1,000 to say, oh yeah, it's a bit of this and there's a bit of so-and-so growing in the grass or something, they just say, no, it's field. Standard says, whatever it says. If you use the SSM, you do not need an ecologist. You can use the simplest small sites biodiversity metric tool yourself, or someone who is familiar with the site can do a survey and make a calculation. This could be the project manager, a gardener, we employ one of them, or a landscape architect. I know an architect, I don't know if he's landscape or not. There is also a growing market of service providers offering automated net gain plans using the SSM. So my feeling is,
she's in fact writing herself out of it, isn't she?
Yeah, indeed. I'm not saying I'm not going to do it. Yvonne might not do it. We might find someone who does do it. But even if she does it, it looks as though it's a really easy little job.
Yes.
Whereas her other version is, I've got to do this lot for £750 just to see what special species you've got. Bugger off. And then, it's £75 an hour to do all the calculations. And you're thinking,
So can we ask her to do...
I think Yvonne might ask her if that says what it means, what it says.
Is that all right, Yvonne?
Have we looked at the tool? Is it small?
No, I'm not going near it. It'll only make my steam come out my ears. I'm too cross with it all.
Well, thank you for that analysis, Jerry.
I just spotted that by luck.
I think we've got a way forward then, haven't we?
Well, maybe.
And she's our preferred provider, I think.
Yeah.
If she,
yes. Yeah, but I mean, potentially she's given us the thing which I thought was you could sort of read and understand that little piece in the middle. I didn't bother with all the links and that. I mean, it may be that there's something that we're going to still find ourselves not able to do this, but.
In effect, I think we're saying we'd like her to do the job, but we'd like her to do the minimalist job, not the...
Either that, or well, first of all, to say, is this right, that SSM is all we need?
Yeah.
In which case, Is it a
But then
£200
is the
job?
planning authority going to say we're happy with what?
Well, that's where I don't know. That's where you may be better to have a specialist who can then stand up to them.
But then if we don't need to do it, we should be able to have the resource to point out to them we didn't need to do it because these are the regulations.
Indeed. Strangely enough, there is an exception. It doesn't apply to us, but there's a general exception, apart from residential. There's a general exception, which is ridiculous, that if you have a site of up to half a hectare and build up to 9 houses on it, providing they're all done as self-builds, so it's not got an overall developer, you get an exception. So you can build 9 houses on half a hectare without having to bother. But if we just want to change the use of a field into a field and bury some people, we have to have a BN, whatever it is. And it's beyond bonkers.
It is, and I think we've all accepted that. So are you happy with what way forward? Thank you, Yvonne.
We are advised in planning training, if I may, that one should not seek to refuse an application on BNG alone. So if you get that far, we can.
Well, that's helpful information too, isn't it?
Good.
So, but that's not the experience we've had hitherto. We've been to the planners who said, no, you can't go any further forward until you've got this.
Which is notoriously difficult to do on small sites, of course, like yours.
Yes. So what, are we doing the right thing?
I can take that up for you, but you might find they just want you to go for the maximalist approach anyway. But let's take it up.
Because we've been struggling to get this. It won't be long before we're having to bury people in the streets because there's only 4 slots available in the
There's a piece of land no one wants, apparently, outside the church.
Yeah, well, there you are, yes.
But I'm happy to have a conversation.
And it's another project that's been going on for 5 years. And we've been,
More.
In Hong Kong, they're very shocking because of states.
yeah. Well, that's what we have to start doing.
I did also find something which says that
Don't
when you
ask
want
for
to
the
get your
laws
net
about
gain,
it.
there are three headings of net gain, and one of them is hedgerow. And of course we know hedgerow we can do. We're going to have 150 metres of it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I hope we're going to make some progress here.
I do.
The Lord is gracious. Okay.
We're praying again.
Indeed. Appointing an internal auditor, we do that every now and again,
Every year.
and we are going to appoint
I
David.
have asked David Chesson and he is willing to do
That's
it for
fabulous.
another
Yeah.
year.
Very good. Correspondence? Completion of
Right.
letter. These are.
If you remember at the last meeting, I had only just had the completion
Thanks for coming.
of the audit.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Are you off as well? Bye.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, I've only just had the completion. So I hadn't actually gone through all of it, and it wasn't on the agenda, so I couldn't include it anyway. But one of the bits that they came out with was that all parish and town community councils should have the .gov.uk website, and every councillor should have an email address with that as well. It's something that's been talked about. I've been picking this up for a long time. It seems that it will be part of the audit, on one of the governance form, I think, will say where we have to say yes or no to all those bits. It will be within that. And obviously with that, when we get to a no bit, we have to say why.
Why? Yeah.
So we can say we don't want to do it. It does seem to be that they want you to have definitely the website, but then councillors can probably get away with not having it. They would prefer you to, but I don't think that's going to be so much of a problem.
But the clerk?
The clerk
Well,
should be.
council.
The clerk should do it, and obviously the website. When it comes to it, Hugo Fox, I've sent that around to you, that they are now can go ahead with doing the website. But when it comes to email addresses, they will be charging on a monthly.
But we've all haven't we all got WPC?
Yes, it's not
That's not
considered.
No. What I'm saying is it won't be too much trouble just to switch to what they're advising.
No, it has to be done through the domain,
Yeah,
and
but
then
it's not.
and then
It's not.
there's
it's £25
£25 a year times 7 councillors.
Yeah, but
It's not the end of the world, but
No. No, I'm just saying this is what. So it's up to you as to what you want to do.
Well, you keep it as simple as possible.
personally, I think we should change to their advice. And there's a reason for them giving that advice,
That's right.
and that's security.
Mm.
You know, the .gov.uk. You might have noticed, you ever look anything up on central government, that's what they use. And the security levels there will be infinitely greater than Gmail. And Gmail are infinitely greater than anyone who's using Hotmail addresses. There's still a few people, which is about leaving your front door open and your wallet on the front doorstep.
it's only coming through Hugo Fox still. I mean, they'll have to meet the requirements, and that's why they've only just been allowed to offer it, because they've had to meet the requirements. It'll be actually Hugo Fox that are doing it, not government service.
I think we should lay it down for future councillors. You know, it should be in our, you know, that the clerk issues the email addresses.
Yeah.
So we're all consistent, and therefore our cyber security is as good as we can probably get.
It's not as though we're guarding state secrets.
Once we get into biodiversity
Yeah.
and the choice of gates
Yes,
around war,
yes, yes.
I mean, come on. You know, we're sitting on things that, you know.
I mean, it seems of power. I rather wonder whether it's necessary, but if you say so,
Well, I'm just
I
suggesting
won't fight against
I'm
it.
just suggesting it.
I'm perfectly content with what I've got.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm happy to be guided by
Yes.
this committee.
Wherever you were broadcasting from last week, I thought it was brilliant, crystal clear, nothing wobbled.
Where was I?
Yeah, I think
I was in Jersey.
Yeah, fantastic.
Well,
And it's just you go there every month.
The trouble was I was in a room which had no furniture
Yeah.
and it echoed terribly, and I couldn't tell the volume.
Did
of
you
my
get off all the charges?
No,
What you describe it.
It's got to
I
go
was
back
told
into
that's
it,
when I
like-
had to go. I was staying with some family in Jersey, and it had got to the top room, and it was terribly echoey. So and Wilma said it sounded as though you were shouting at the parish council because you could hear me from a distance.
But half of
It's
you normally
only 17 tonight. Yeah, we only need
I don't even make it a comment.
So are we?
7 councillors needed.
Right.
guided by our...
So it's up to 10 email addresses. Will be 17.49 a month.
Because I thought it was £2.
17?
£2.
49 a month.
I mean, am I looking for a proposal to say we're going to adopt this? Because I'm going to vote against it. But am I looking for a proposal to say we are going to go for it?
Are we going to split it and say definitely the website? All happy the website will be free.
I think it always strikes me when a website has a different domain to the email addresses of the executives or the people connected with it. I always think that comes across as a little bit strange.
You think it matters?
I think it needs to be consistent. What does the high authority of the Parish Clerk Association recommend?
Well, they all...
They'll go with it.
They'll
No,
go with
yes.
it.
Yeah.
Some of them have done
I
this
think there's
already.
probably a reason. Yeah, there's probably
Yeah.
a reason for that. I would go for on security grounds.
I have absolutely no objection to the parish council having a .gov.uk. I don't mind what anyone else does. I personally will not have yet another email because they're all a pain in the neck to set up. And then every time in the past BT cancels the passwords and then says it's nothing to do with us, I spend days trying to get them all to work again and I just won't do it.
My experience is the same, and I'm with Jeremy on this.
Well, I don't require my
That's only a
horse
personal
to be
thing.
tethered at the church wall.
It's not.
I tend to share Jeremy's view on that too.
I
And they're bossing us around as well. I have enough trouble with my personal administration at home with about 6 or 7 email addresses.
don't.
And the computer, when I'm sending them out, picks whichever one it wants half the time. Honestly, unless I look very
In the
carefully.
words of someone far more famous than me, I couldn't possibly come up with that.
But all I'm saying is that I'm not lining myself up in my situation to have someone saying, oh, you should do this,
You
you
can
did
do
that,
that.
all the rest of it. I'm just...
Jeremy's much more articulate than I am, but if I was trying to express what I feel, I would be saying exactly the same thing.
Yeah, so would
Are you
I.
going to keep your WPC one?
Yes,
Or why?
because it's the one I've got, and I really don't want to update that. You know?
Fine.
Yes.
And then people will send to me on both, and I'll have to look at both. I don't want that either.
And the extreme, I mean, Johnny obviously in the borough council is a different thing, but I know at least one parish council, it's a big parish council, where every councillor is given a parish council laptop. I'm not suggesting that, I do not want to have it.
I don't
That
either.
shows where you can get to. That's a parish council spending many thousands of pounds issuing laptops.
I'm sure they've got good reasons.
So
They're
in
just
fact,
going the full-
I'm
they're going the
happily
full
getting the feeling that we don't want this.
I think the parish website is fine.
Yes.
That's the first thing to do. There's no problems. We're already with Hugo Fox. It will all be set up.
Yeah.
And Yvonne will then, instead of being Wittersham, by the way, you have to have PC in the address. So we would probably be a bit like we are at the minute. Wittersham
PC is what our
hyphen PC
See.
.gov.uk.
Yeah.
Sally, do you have a view?
Having had a gov.uk for 30 years, I don't see a problem with it.
No, but I...
And I've got
Colin?
5 email addresses because I have 5 different exact managers with one of which is the parish council.
I've got...
It's not an issue.
Colin?
I've got 3.
It's not an issue.
But have you got a view on this?
Pardon?
Have you got a view on this?
Yes, I'm saying is I'm with Jeremy on this one.
So if I get a vote with 3 saying no and 2 saying we don't mind, and one saying we don't mind and 1 saying yes please, so I've got a funny feeling the no's get it. Is that all right?
I think I'm going to abstain on this occasion.
Here.
I'm going to abstain on this
So
occasion.
Yes.
you happy with
I'm
that?
with Sally. I see no
Well, it's
problem.
been kicked into touch anyway. There's no
Yes.
urgency on that.
So
Yeah.
So
kicked
we can do the first
into
part.
touch.
so we're just
you-
going
you-
with the website.
Website for sure.
I want a sports club.
Very good. And moving on to item 10, payments for authorisation.
Well, you would have, wouldn't you?
Clerk's expenses, no problem.
No, do you want me to sign anything?
Not at that moment, no.
So I'm going to look now.
Right, we just...
I've got them here. Not very much really, is it, this month?
No, only stationery and stamps on top of the usual.
Did you get a whole load of stamps in?
Sorry? No, I forgot.
Oh, good.
I meant to.
Yeah.
In fact, I thought of it today and I looked up and it was
It was
yesterday.
yesterday.
Yes,
Not that I use many first class,
No.
because obviously second is
No
what I
one will
use.
now. I mean, they're just getting rid of first class, aren't they?
It doesn't make any difference anyway. I had a first class letter come from them. It took 10 days.
What about the lady who got a reply after 40 years? She'd like to be a stunt motorcycle.
They probably turned her down.
I think she's invited for a second interview.
Got 2
They
hours.
actually said that it was found behind a drawer.
Yeah.
I'll just bring us back into order. Where were we?
Clerk's
So
So
expenses.
you're okay with the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Donation to the British Royal Regal.
What did we give before last year?
£100 is what we've given before, which comes out of the chairman's allowance.
Same again, please.
I would recommend the same.
Is that all right?
Does it leave enough for the Christmas?
Yeah, we increased it last year.
All right.
Thank you. Working party reports. Caretaker.
Caretaker, as you know, he's on. He had his op.
He's had it up, has
He's
he?
had his op. Yes.
Successfully.
Yeah. Well, that's fine.
Well, I'm
We
just
don't know. You know, it's
Presentation.
work in progress. I did see him last Wednesday. He came down for coffee. He will be back. He had a sick note until Friday, this Friday. But he did say that, bless him, he's been emptying the waste bins that needed emptying. No, he didn't do all of them throughout like he normally does, but he checked up on the ones that actually needed emptying.
he's doing
And
the
he's
shop.
done those,
How's the shop?
yeah,
Outside the shop.
which are around, you know, all villages, which I think was,
Yeah.
Would you pass
Was
on
good.
our gratitude,
yes,
please?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, he's.
Our collective gratitude.
Yes, and then he intends. I spoke to him about the cemetery and the overgrown trees, and
Yes.
things, and that's something that he puts on his list for winter.
So it brings like the sycamores growing up out
Yes.
of a particular grade
Yes,
gets cut back in the
Yes.
winter. Well, that's useful information.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes.
for that.
so he will be doing that over the winter months.
That's a result. Thank you. I will pass it on to the concerned parties.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're now on to finance, monthly transaction statements and things.
Okay.
Sign here.
Well, I got to agree first.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was getting ready.
Obviously we're only a few days over the end of the month, are you now going to put some money back
Yes,
in the...
yes, because also I've got...
I know you had to do it just because we were going to run out otherwise. Before the precept came in, you thought you might run out, so you had to move some money.
Yes, I did that.
And then
But
we got
also
some...
I've got the precept in, and I've also got the caretaker's money in as well.
Okay.
So
Well done.
yes, but that didn't come in until this
Yes,
month,
yeah.
so it won't show up until next
So
month.
you could...
But I will, yes, work out what we need and
Some
then it can
into
come back
the-
into
Some way
CCLA.
can go in CCLA.
Yes,
Because
most
that's
definitely.
doing very well now.
Yeah,
Mm.
yes. Yeah, so I think otherwise it's, so you can see where I've
Excellent.
brought it in and took it
Mm.
out, colour coded, so you can see it's not.
Excellent.
And I had a letter from CCLA to say that they had made an error and not included the dividend for the 31st of August, so hence we've got two amounts, if you notice at the bottom,
Yes, I saw that.
£16, so they had to put it in.
Yeah, sure.
So that
Yeah,
kind
that does splendidly.
so yeah, so sign and date please. Thank you, and then we've got the caretaker's one. You can see how close we got on the balance with that before the caretaker's money came in. Around to 1,000.
Yes,
Not 19,000 are coming. That's clever.
yes.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Right, so it's those two. And that was just really just to show you that it was the bank rec that happens every month. Every now and again I bring that in so that you can see how the figures, the ones that I put on the main sheets, tie up with the ones that are here, are the same as the ones that are on there. So you can see how the system works.
It's very helpful, thank you.
One I put together and one that comes off the printer.
Mm.
Right.
Very good.
Now we come to the half-yearly budget. Once again, I came up with the one. I put one together myself, which was slightly easier than the one that you get to print out, which gives you so many details. But if you're happy with the way that looks, it's sort of, half and half.
Everybody got a look and everybody happy.
I did see that, I mean, just, from my own, assuming I have correctly assessed it, the forecast, as you show it, is the rest of the year,
Yes.
rather than forecast for end of
No.
the year.
Yeah.
Forecast
Yes,
for the end of the year.
yes,
I understood that.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand the 6,000 actual for the contributions to caretaker scheme. That would be our payment.
That's up. Yeah, it's difficult to
But you
bring
show
it
it's
in.
very hard because
Yes.
you show it as a receipt.
Yeah, but
But
also
actually,
it's moving about.
Yes.
But
but then shouldn't
But
there
it comes
be
into-
one going out again somewhere else? It's
Well,
in the
not-
payments.
yes,
Isn't it?
yeah,
Yes, you've got own
it
payments.
doesn't.
So that
It
19
gets-
has got 6
1,000.
of it is
It
ours.
does.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I can understand it's difficult.
It's very difficult, but
It is.
we budget for it, so I have to
Yeah.
show it in.
That's right. Remove the
But
ground.
yes,
Sure. All right.
it's difficult to have, but anyway.
Okay.
So if you're happy with all that.
I think the encouraging thing is we have quite a lot of money swirling around, but actually we're not at risk because we've got a load in the bank.
Mm.
So really, things come in late or whatever, doesn't really matter. We're not sort of
We're not
on
sort
top. We're not
no,
on edge
no.
like we used to be when I first arrived.
We've got a good defensive position.
Yes.
Yeah, certainly have.
Thank you. And now we go to planning. It's nothing new, but these are...
Well, there is something new.
Oh, is there?
Yes,
Yeah.
in as much as the two planning applications that Johnny might know all about this. The solar panels, that Ashford originally put in the agent put the application in the name of the people that lived there, but as their tenants that became invalid, although one of them had already been granted by the officer, the other was withdrawn. They then put those two through as the applicant being Ashford Borough Council and would have to go to committee to be agreed. The day afterwards, they were withdrawn.
Again.
So yes, so the ones that I got, because I supported them under delegation because it was ridiculous, and I told them I thought it was ridiculous. Yes, so they are now withdrawn. The ones I supported, but they've been withdrawn.
Maybe they didn't need them.
No, that's what I'm reckoning, that
Didn't
they
need
didn't actually, I haven't had confirmation back yet from Planning Help, but they did say that it was under discussion with the planning officers when I said it was, you know, why we got some, and and the next door neighbour had got solar panels put up, but nothing had come to us. And there's lots up in Jubilee Field that got them already there. But two or one in there, unfortunately, suddenly needed planning application. But it's all been
Strikes me as a new officer was in place.
oh,
Mess.
I don't know. Anyway,
A mess.
I told them why.
We've got saying
Dream of
not,
attempting to explain
I think you're saying not to worry about it too much.
Yes,
Well, I've just...
there will be solar panels there at some point.
Well, yes, they are. Most of them have got them. It's just these two poor people that...
Yes.
The scaffolding's just gone up as well at one house that I'm told this morning. Or it is up, anyway, for doing...
I think I'm going to move on.
Yeah, indeed.
Open spaces. That's me. I have nothing to report. Public rights of way.
Sorry?
Public rights of way.
No. Oh, just when people raise things, sometimes you forward that on to highways, and sometimes do you deal with that yourself?
It depends what it is. It very much depends whether it comes under the role that I have as countryside access warden. So trimming back, for instance, round things. If it's big hedges, sometimes we can do things, sometimes we can't. If it's obstructions across fields, then I would report to.
So if we wrote to somebody, if that's what you normally do, and say, what would we say about trimming back? Would we say that they need to trim back so there's a metre width of, like I always remember when we lived at Four Oaks, we had to keep I think it was 1 metre or 2 metres free, obstacle free for the footpath. It's just that people's trimming back is you know, you're still having to go sideways and they've trimmed back.
But even when they come, the contractors do, when they come and do it, they don't have to take it back hard enough either. It's just generally...
So we don't sort of tell them it needs to be 1 metre?
No.
No.
Thank you. Highways, Paul?
There's nothing specific that's been mentioned to me, or apart from the fact that the patching on the corner by the Swan Pub is generally slowly sinking.
It's got a new date.
Has it got a new date?
Road closed.
I get confused about. I've been the victim, not the victim. Sorry, I've suffered from road closures across Kent in the last 2 months. That I take a view that half of them actually don't mean it, because it's just a crew.
It's just a wind up.
Yeah, and then you get to it and you find out it's actually seriously closed. I mean, I went through Benenden a few days ago, and someone had just knocked every sign to one side.
Yes.
And it wouldn't have been the repairers. Because it was all open. So the Swan, so the BL 2082 is closed.
No, Swan Street.
Swan Street.
No, I meant the where we had the massive sinkhole. The patching around. I always call it Mervyn and the Swan Street corner. It sounds like a rock band.
Mervyn.
I hold Mervyn responsible.
Yeah, I think that's it. In fact, actually, a good point. Certain citizens should step forward and take responsibility for their own corner.
It's Mervyn's hole.
I think the sinkhole's still right, but the others are going down.
They are, aren't they? So I think we just notify the clerk that these other holes are going down.
Yeah.
There's an increasingly big hole outside my house, but it's in the middle of the road. There's only big when lorries go over it, there's an almighty clang. But I'm going to do what I did last time, which was leave it till it gets sort of fairly difficult. And then I just phoned up the highways department, gave them the 3 words for that centre of the road, and it was fixed within 48 hours. To me, the moral of the story is always give the 3 words.
When Mike came to the meeting, he said about stretches of road, didn't he, rather than potholes. Did we then write in about Underhill?
I haven't, no.
I think it's done, but I mean, if you come up there too fast, you actually sort of slide round the corner with the.
Drive it up every time.
It's a shocking road.
The KCC seminars are coming along. I haven't put myself down for one at this moment. I don't know if anyone else has. There's a choice this year of just one live one and one Zoom one, isn't there?
Yeah, Wednesdays. Wednesday morning.
What you going to do?
And moving on to cemetery and churchyard, Sue's away, and we've just talked about the lay-by, so I doubt that we've talked about the cemetery. I don't think there's anything extra I'd want to add in there.
No, I just said CA above, which was the
Yeah.
caretaker bit, so that's all I've got.
And then Calc meeting on the 24th of...
Yeah, I went there. John wasn't there because he was somewhere or other, I can't remember. I mentioned to, shame that Greg isn't here, I mentioned to them that the climate conversation that Greg and Kate held a couple of weeks ago in here had gone very well, and no, it wasn't here actually, it was an extra meeting in his own place in the Oast. And Claire Norman, who is the second officer of ABC on climate change issues, there's 2, she's the number 2. She came along to it, she spent about an hour and a quarter with us, and she's very good, and is keen to go around talking to parish councils. So, you know, that's a possibility for us. I mentioned that at Calc, and obviously because all of them can invite her, and maybe to go to Calc as well.
And the parish meeting.
And what?
An annual parish meeting.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Good idea. And the other thing is Calc website, which everyone can use. I mean, it's sort of limping into existence. Have you been on it?
No.
Is that going to be enveloped in that thing we were talking about 10 minutes ago? About the
No, they won't be GovUK.
No,
they're not allowed to be, I don't think.
Okay.
But it's been set up at great expense. The idea is, and I'm not sure it's going to fulfil it, but it was quite clear when I was hearing the proposals for it, that it's supposed to become a sort of whole new working system for Calc Office. So that, for instance, just take an obvious or a straightforward example, if Yvonne gets onto or the chairman, which I used to do but I can't now, if they get onto Clive to ask advice on legal and things, you know, powers of councils, instead of him just sending out an email to say what he thinks about it, plus the reference to about 3 legal topic notes from NALC, it will now go onto their database so that it's a sort of FAQs of all the things that they get asked, you know, and it gets
it's a rolling programme.
And more of it, they ought to be doing their working through that website, a bit like IT help desks, you know, where if you ring up and say my computer won't work, it'll get a ticket number and it'll go on the database and it'll get resolved at a certain time and all that sort of thing. I'm not sure if they're actually going to be able to work that, because it's a whole way of living their office life. But that was the plan anyway, because they are very overloaded. So I talked about that. Or we talked about that rather. It wasn't me. I talked about the client conversation. So that's that one. Thank you.
And so it's basically the next of the meeting, and then I think Yvonne's got some items for information possibly.
Yes, I attended the all-day scribe fest. I expect you all had a look at it to see what was on the agenda. No. There were some interesting, some were a bit boring, but there were interesting things. They had a piece on the external audit, and it appears that the thing that I was picked up on, the fact that I hadn't got the minute of who had appointed as internal auditor, was something that they picked up on lots of people. it was something that ours had decided they were going to check up on.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, just mean they were looking for that. And what else about? Then there was a chap, Roger Taylor, who helps update Arnold Baker's local council administration, the big yellow book that I go by. He spoke to her about half an hour on agendas, summons and minutes, and it was encouraging to hear all the things that he said we needed to do is what we do, which was good. But he did say that when it comes to the public session, that it should be just merely statements from the public and not a question and answer thing. Obviously, planning applications are different because that's what we're there for, to ask them. But otherwise, it should be just saying things, not necessarily us.
So we don't really want a dialogue like we had earlier on today. I thought it was a reasonable dialogue.
It's a bit
It depends on what it is.
No, it gives us information.
Exactly, what we want to know.
We want to clarify often.
Which is it's fine, but I think it's just saying that it can become a bit of a session.
Well, that's up to the chairman to stamp on it.
I think the thing is partly character, because we've had trouble in the past where going back before some of you were on the council, where we had huge rows going on years ago, and they were very hard to squash. I mean, a lot of that's going back to John's time when it was at its most vociferous.
You mean John Rivers?
And so getting into a debate, as it were, where they keep pressing their opinions and we keep saying, no, you're wrong, or no, we don't accept it, or whatever, that's not helpful. Whereas if it's a to and fro of just clarifying exactly what's in people's minds, and it's constructive, that seems to be a useful use of their time to come here. And after all, we are a public body, therefore we have to deal helpfully and positively with our public,
It's a fair point.
unless they make it impossible.
In the end, it's probably really up to the chairman, isn't it? But thank you. I think that's probably the end of the meeting.
I had a couple of other things. Yeah, I had a couple of other things.
It would be the end of the meeting unless I hadn't asked anybody, but I haven't, so I will now ask.
I've already mentioned the first one, which is about Claire Norman appreciating an invite to come and talk to us. The next one, I had a call from David Catterton this morning at home. He is the developer of Stocks Road, and he was updating me, and I asked him if I could raise this particular point here, and he said yes, that's fine. They will hope to go to the planning committee in December, although it may not make it if he has a problem getting the new landscape drawings finished. If it's not getting it done for December, it's getting it into planning in time for them to verify it, then to go out to consultation, so we will get it, then get back and then do the paper for the planning committee.
Can I ask what they've been doing all this time? Not that I'm trying to hurry them along, I'm just intrigued that it took them so long to do.
Waiting for a change of government, I think.
Because, no, it's not that. It's because the requirement put on them by the planning committee when I went there about 2+ years ago, I think. Well, Mick was still the councillor as well. The requirement put on them was to come up with an agreed plan with the planners. And they did come up with what I thought was understood to be an agreed plan with the planners, but the planners then ebbed and flowed and it was no longer an agreed plan, so they've had to do a new plan and get it agreed with the planners, and they now feel that this one is solid. With the planners, still has to go to the planning committee, and of course the council's now a new council, so who knows where they get to. But basically they're aiming to get it in for December. I said I would tell people that tonight at the council meeting. So we'll probably get consultation in November unless they get it delayed. And the last thing I think is of interest, at the session on the climate conversation of Greg and Kate, neighbourhood planning started to be mentioned by 2 vociferous members of the public there, neighbourhood plans. I corrected them with difficulty to say, you keep saying neighbourhood plans and you don't actually know what neighbourhood plans are. They're a legal structure. They are not a parish plan. you know, we've been through this years before. And I told them that it would not do what they hope it will do. It's very bureaucratic. They are very, very difficult to do, and they don't actually give us the opportunity to do what people once used to think of them doing. And I did then say at the end, after the meeting had broken up, that I would brief Greg on it a bit more afterwards, but he said he thought he understood already. I'm telling you this because it just indicates that there is this sort of sense in some members of the village that what we really need is a neighbourhood plan. Oh, that would be good because we can decide what we want and all the rest of it. And actually, that door is not open.
But do you remember Rothendon did one about
They did indeed.
5 or 10 years ago?
Not as much as that. And the first thing that happened after they decided that they were willing, if I remember the board numbers right, they decided that they were willing to accept 20 houses and where they would put them. They got their plan through, or largely through, and then Ashford said, well, you can have 40 then, and just plonk them in.
Yeah.
And they were really, really peed off.
Yes.
I mean, that was actually, I would say, breaching the rules. A neighbourhood plan is a material planning consideration, though it is not a complete red light. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Sally.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah, Paul. No, thank you, Johnny. Ron.
I've done my bit.
Thank you very much, everybody.